Good morning, everyone. This is obviously not Tuya. This is Michael, and I'm substituting for Tuya this morning. And we're doing the Reappearance of the Christ work, a little bit of reading from the book, and then our meditation, which the Tibetan has given to us. I guess it's hard for us to fathom that it's really the most important thing that can be going on our planet at this time. It's quite obvious, at least it's obvious to me, that what the Christ saw in the Garden of Gethsemane showed him that his presence was absolutely necessary during the Aquarian Age if humanity was to make it through. And I think there are other references to the idea that from decay that say that humanity will discover it cannot handle the problem all by itself. That being the case, we have only gratitude towards the Great Lord and His masters and initiates, and we have to do all we can to assist them in bringing the divine plan forward. We've been quite busy with the festival week of the new group of world servers. You can get most or all of those programs soon on Makara, in case you missed something you wanted to view or listen to. And now we're getting back into resuming the normal Ask program. We are on the morning schedule, and tomorrow we'll be working with the Glamour schedule in the morning, 6 a.m. GMT, and then at night we'll be working on the Treatise on Cosmic Fire, which is a new series of programs that will last us a good long time, and with Francis Donald doing the Secret Doctrine and also the Big Manly Hall book, I think we'll be covering the big picture fairly well over the next number of years, leading to the Great Conclave and beyond. So here here are some of the areas where we left off, either Tuya or myself. And it's about the Christ. And it says here, he's been the supreme head of the church invisible for 2,000 years. The church invisible, considered as the spiritual hierarchy of the planet, and note, composed of disciples of all faiths. And this is important. He recognizes and loves those who are not Christian, but who retain their allegiance to their founders, the Buddha, Muhammad, and others. He cares not what the faith is. If the objective is love of God and of humanity. If men look for the Christ who left his disciples centuries ago, they will fail to recognize the Christ who is in process of returning. I mean, after all, at his high stage of evolution, he also is evolving and doing what is necessary to meet the present world need, which is much more encompassing than the need of the time when he last appeared, overshadowing or through the body of the initiate Jesus. The Christ has no religious barriers in his consciousness. It matters not to him of what faith a man may call himself. The Son of God is on his way, and he cometh not alone. His advance guard is already here, and the plan which they must follow is already made and clear. So let recognition be the aim. Now I think we can go on a little more, and this is the 4th chapter, beginning page 61 in that wonderful little book. So this is the work of the Christ today and in the future. We have seen that the doctrine of the great appearances and of the coming of avatars or world teachers or saviors underlies all the world religions. We do know that help is always expected, and rightly so, but of course we must not be passive in the face of the help that is offered. Through them, these appearances or avatars, the continuity of revelation is implemented, and humanity is enabled, each successive age, to take its next step forward along the path of evolution, closer to God and that divine center in which the will of the one in whom we live and move and have our being, as St. Paul expressed it in Acts 17:28, is focused, understood, and directed. We have touched upon the mission of 2 of these avatars, the Buddha, the messenger of light for the East, and the Christ, the messenger of love for the West, and their work for the entire world. We have considered the unique opportunity with which Christ is today faced, and the response he made in 1945 when he signified his intention to reappear and gave the great invocation to us as an aid in the preparatory work with which we are immediately confronted. It would seem appropriate at this point, excuse me, to consider the nature of the work which he will do, and also the teaching which he will probably give. The fact of the continuity of the revelation and teaching given down the ages entitles us to a wise consideration and spiritual speculation upon the probable lines which his work will take. You see how cautious here the Tibetan is being. He does not assert that he knows exactly what the teaching will be, but gives us the probabilities so he does not presume. Over the years, much has been given out from many sources, schools of thought, and churches about the Christ, the situation which he faces, and the probabilities as to his reappearance. Disciples, aspirants, and men of goodwill have done much already to prepare the world for his so-called return. Well, of course, he hasn't really left. He's been with us all this time, though behind the veil foremost and behind the scenes. Today, the East and the West stand equally expectant. It's the Maitreya Buddha who is expected in the East, and he is the Christ who is expected in the West. As we approach the theme of his work, it is essential that we remember that the Eastern teacher, that's the Buddha, embodied in himself the wisdom of God, of which human intelligence, the third aspect of divinity, is an expression. That through Christ, the second divine aspect was revealed in its perfection. And in him two aspects, therefore, light and love, received full expression. It remains now for the highest of the divine aspects, the will of God, to receive embodiment. And for this the Christ is preparing, his association with the avatar of synthesis, and especially that, and then of course the spirit of peace and the Buddha. The continuity of revelation may not stop, and so many religions make the grave mistake of presenting a doctrine which ceases to evolve and has no real continuity of revelation. Excuse me. So, I'll end this little bit of reading now with these words: the continuity of revelation may not stop, and upon what other expressions of the divine nature may still later be revealed, it is needless for us to speculate. So, if I can just get this properly done, today is the today is the 16th of January in the year of sight 2020. And we will, Tui and I, continue to read as we can now and then until we make our way through this book, the Reappearance of the Christ. Now we will go ahead into the meditation, breathing in the white light and seeing our co-disciples in the white light. And focusing for just a moment on the triangles in general with which we may be involved. And the love and the goodwill passing between the members of these triangles, and throughout the entire triangles network. Which is really much larger than we can specifically conceive. We will then have a moment here of positive and intended personality quietness. And we will formulate to ourselves, in our own words, the answers to the following questions. As a member of the new group of world servers, what is my specific, fixed intention at this moment of dedicated contact with my soul? Number 2 is my concentrated and expressed personality purpose in line with hierarchical intention as far as I am permitted to know it. Have I, in my own personal daily life, earned the right, because of definite effort and not so much because of success, to stand with those servers who are now undertaking the work of preparation? So this is one of the one time in this meditation the Tibetan tells us where we think of ourselves, and it is here because it is a method of personality focused attention and aligns our personality upon the mental plane. So then the next stage, having answered these 3 questions in the light of the soul, we will say with emphasis, as it is seen here, this powerful mantram, which is in line with purpose and the first ray. Forgetting the things which lie behind, I will strive towards my higher spiritual possibilities. I dedicate myself anew to the service of the coming one, and will do all I can to prepare men's minds and hearts for that event. I have no other life intention. And we can see how this consecrates the will and the purpose of each disciple, using it to the great task of preparing for the reappearance and the externalization. Then in the 3rd stage of the meditation, we visualize the world situation as best we can, and in terms of our major world interests, and with what knowledge of world affairs we may possess. And we see, imagine the mass of human beings everywhere glowing with a dim light. So many people, most of them glowing with but a dim light. But here and there, points of brighter light where members of the new group of world servers and people of spiritual intention and of loving hearts are working for their fellow men. So the light of the servers is visible to our imagination, and then we visualize in the midst of all this the vivid light of the hierarchy, streaming towards humanity and slowly merging with the light which is already in the human race. So from the inside out, this vivid light of Christ and his hierarchy augments the light of the world servers and the light of the masses of human beings. And then we will say the first stanza of the invocation. From the point of light within the mind of God, let light stream forth into the minds of men. Let light descend on earth. Then we ponder on the reappearance of the Christ, and we realize that no matter by what name he may be called in the many world religions, he is still the same great identity. So many may imagine that the Christ is only for their particular approach to religion, their particular sect, and it's a great, grave error. So we reflect upon the possible results of his reappearance. Knowing that he will come, inevitably, unfailingly, to his loved humanity when a measure of peace has been restored. He knows what the measure is. We do not. When the principle of sharing is at least in process of controlling economic affairs, and we're a long way from that. And when churches and political groups have begun to clean house, and that definitely is happening. It's probably the first thing to happen. The next thing is the sharing, and then the peace will supervene, and then he can and will come, and the kingdom of God will be publicly recognized and will no longer be a thing of dreams and of wishful thinking and of orthodox hope. And then we will move on to the second stanza of the invocation. From the point of light within the heart of God, let love stream forth into the hearts of men. May Christ return to earth. We endeavor, pardon me, to concentrate our fixed intention to serve and to spread love in our surroundings. And we realize that insofar as we could do these things, we are attempting to blend our little personal will with the divine will. Love and will, so closely related. And then we move on to the part of the invocation which deals with the divine will. From the center where the will of God is known, let purpose guide the little wills of men, the purpose which the masters know and serve. I'm sorry. And so we consider then practically in the coming week what we can do to further the preparations for the coming of the Christ and the externalization of his hierarchy. We are as if working as a part of the group of forerunners, and we do have a little more than 5 years until the era of the forerunner is over and the great conclave will occur. And shortly after that, again, the festival week of the new group of world servers will occur in 2026. So how will we help in the presence of the Master, in the presence of the Angel of the Presence? What can we plan for the coming week to prepare for the coming of the great Lord and his masters and initiates? What is your part? We respond to the vibration of the Christ, and thus we commit ourselves in his name. And we say together this little mantra: we have gathered in your name, Lord Maitreya, be with us. Now inwardly we will sound the Om 3 times. And we are dedicating the threefold personality to the work of preparation. And this brings us to our closing. We continue to think a little bit every day about the reappearance of the Christ, as even as we're doing our other meditations and so forth, the Christ is on his way with his masters and his initiates. And we mobilize goodwill, love in action wherever we can, and try to help solve the problems of humanity. And so everyone, many blessings and much love from the whole team, Tuya and myself and the whole team. And we'll close our little meditation